One of the recurring in-jokes during the sessions of the album was the spin the wheel dial, which is used for determining which takes they chose. And the wheel, which they would spin, had labeled sections. Great, best take ever, better than the Beatles, pretty good, okay, not so good, possibly acceptable, pretty bad, weak, horrible, dreadful, and the worst shit I've ever heard.
Hey everybody out there, welcome back to another episode of the Audiophiles. It's Andy, it's John, and it's time to get into some music. So John is going to offer up something for me to go off and check out, and then I'm going to come back. We're going to chop it up a bit. John, you know the routine. What are we working with today, buddy?
So the band is one which is long overdue. You've probably heard of them, XTC.
Yes, I have heard of them. I vaguely recall them also being featured earlier on Into the Music when I think it was Greg and Chris still at that point. But it's so weird. It's one of those names that I've heard so often, but I can't tell you for certain a single song that I've heard from these guys, or even if I have, maybe if I have, it'd be one of those where I didn't realize I was even listening to them because no one pointed it out. But yeah, I don't think I'm familiar with any of their oeuvre. So what is the track by them you want me to check out?
The track is called "The Mayor of Simpleton."
The Mayor of Simpleton. I see what
It's
they do.
it's a timeless, honoured position we give only to the very best in our country. A certain Mr. Johnson was the last one to hold it, I believe.
Oh, great. Okay, yeah, that's exactly. I was thinking of Farage instantly, but yeah, that
There
works.
you go.
Well, let me
He's more like a clerk than a mayor.
yeah, he hasn't even graduated to that level. Let me go off and give it a listen, and I'll come back and give you my thoughts. It reminds me of the Police. I mean, the aesthetic reminds me of late era Beatles, but the music actually kind of reminds me a bit of the Police. Is it Andy Summers, the guitar? Yeah, it kind of has that bright quality to it. Interesting. Yeah, let's just take that back. Anyway, yeah, reminded me a little bit of the Police, but it's very bright and sounds lovely. Just a few seconds in, let's see where it goes. Great bass work.
Never been near a university. Never took a paper or a learning degree.
Very self-deprecating.
Some of your friends think that's stupid of me, but it's nothing that I care about. Well, I don't know how to tell the weight of the sun and of mathematics, well, I want none. And I may be the man of Simpleton, but I know one thing, and that's I love you. When their logic runs cold and all thinking gets done, you'll be warm in the arms of the man of Simpleton. I can't have been there when brains were handed round. These
Yeah, this is this is very sweet, but also kind of funny as well. Like he's taking the piss out of himself, saying that he doesn't know the weight of the sun, or he's no fan of mathematics, but he'll love you, uh, and he's deemed himself the mayor of Simpleton, which is funny, clever. For somebody who thinks he's pretty stupid, it's kind of clever, and sweet. So yeah, let's take it back a little bit.
when their logic runs cold and all thinking gets done, you'll be warm in the arms of the man of Simpleton. I can't have been there when brains were handed
like the double track vocals. I wonder if that's him or if that's another vocalist, because the voice sounds very similar. But it also works really well together too. So I like the idea of injecting the second vocal track into it. Ooh. Bass work is really good. Yeah, that was a really, I mean, it was a very sweet song. It had some bits of like clever humor employed throughout the lyricism. I think that's pretty obvious. So, you know, hats off there. There were some bits that kind of made me chuckle where you're thinking, like, you know, he's saying he's not smart and he's incapable of writing like a hip hop song in the midst of what I could imagine would qualify as a hip hop song. I don't know how well the song did, but it has all the trappings of a song that would do well. So that's funny. Also, like, myriad geniuses throughout history were incapable of writing a hip hop song. So I don't know if that necessarily means you are or are not a genius. I don't remember, like, you know, Einstein or Hawkins or anybody ever, you know, writing a top 40 hit. And also the the shying away from crossword puzzles or whatever, not necessarily a determining factor in how intelligent you are, but the point is made and taken. Yeah, I could see in a certain mood or certain individuals could be like, oh, this is too saccharine or cheesy for my liking, and it has some of that, but if you dig a little bit deeper than the surface area, you pick up on you know, what can kind of set it apart from a lot of stuff and that would fit that bill. So yeah, it's clever lyrically, it's fun, it's got this whimsy to it, and it, like I said, whether you think this is a good thing or not, it has all the construct and attributes to a really good well-written pop song, which is something he said he's incapable of doing. I beg to differ. But yeah, this is a lot of fun to listen to. It's not one of my favorite songs John has ever given me, but for what it is, it's good. You know what I mean? This is fun, listenable, accessible, I think, to a larger number of people than perhaps some of the other stuff we've featured on the channel, and that's okay. There's room. Music is a big tent, and you know you can allow in plenty of different genres and styles, and some of it can be, you know, nuanced and perhaps polarizing, depending on what it is. But you know, this has mass appeal to it, and it's not easy to write music that can draw in such a wide swath of listeners. So hats off to them for being able to churn something out that has that kind of appeal to it. And yeah, I found it to be clever and sweet, and both charming and disarming in its like self-deprecation. And this idea of like Simpleton being a geographic location and him being the mayor of it is a funny concept in and of itself. So yeah, kudos to them for churning out a pretty decent little number here. I've obviously, I've heard of XTC or ecstasy so many times, but I've never really listened to their music. So this was a nice opportunity to be able to listen to a band whose name I've heard often and I've heard them referenced plenty of times, but I've never really stopped to give them any of my time until today. I know that they've had other songs in this. I can't think of a damn one. But I'd love to know if this is indicative of their sound as a whole, or if they were leaning into the pop aspect of music and rock and roll when they churned out this little ditty. But it was fun, and it made me smile, and that's got to be worth something. But I'm interested to learn more about these guys, so let's get back to John and chop it up.
Master Timothy Claypole, you're back. So you've had a listen to the Mayor of Simpleton, XTC. What are your findings?
Well, my findings within the first 6 to 8 seconds of this track was, holy shit, this sounds a lot like The Police. I don't know what it was, but those first, before he starts singing, that little snippet there, I was like, it has that Andy Summers kind of guitar tone, kind of bright. And I was thinking, oh my God, this very much reminds me of The Police. Now, obviously, it's not, and that was confirmed when the singer joined the mix, and I'm quickly assured that it isn't Sting in front of the mic. He seems to be pretty self-deprecating with his with his vocals. So about how he's never been to university or took a paper or learned a degree, and despite his catching shit from your friends, it seems like it's nothing he's too worried about. Whoever this "your" is, I assume it's his love interest. But yeah, the bright, upbeat verse seamlessly moves into a chorus of equal brightness and upbeat nature, and during which the singer confesses he might not know how to tell the weight of the sun, or really any mathematics for that matter, and he may in fact be the mayor of Simpleton, but you know what he knows? He knows how to love you, and that's all that really matters. So I added that last bit. That's all that really matters. But I am firmly in this guy's corner. He's sweet. Sweet but stupid people need love too, John. So this is as someone who is both of those things, I can't help but commiserate with the main character here of the track. The chorus is then followed by a little post-chorus line where he sings, "When their logic grows cold and all thinking gets done, you'll be warm in the arms of the mayor of Simpleton." So more sweet sentiments here. This bit not only scans really well, but it sounds pleasant. And it's nicely, at this point, it nicely puts a bow on this whole chorus section, acting as this little post-chorus bit. And then we jump back into the bouncy verse, but this one seems to... now, this is a point of question I had. Like, is this a second vocalist, or is this him on a second vocal track? Because the voices sound very similar to one another. But I don't know if it is in fact him that's doing it. So I was just a question that I had. Do you know that off the top of your head?
Although when he says, "Please be extended for the," I think that's somebody else. Yeah.
Okay, great. And
Another
yes,
member of the band.
I should have been more descriptive, but yeah, that's the part I was talking about. Really, they work really well together, and I like how, like, if you go to the first verse, in retrospect, you do realize that there is this space between lines that is now being occupied by this other voice. So it all kind of makes sense and is cobbled together really well and deftly. So yeah, he delivers this lines, and it gives this. It only further adds to this very strong pop feeling that I'm getting from this song. It has a lot of pop sentiment and mentality behind how it's all crafted and put together, which, as we've discussed before, is no easy task. I know it as a finished product, and because it sounds so accessible, people are quick to say, oh, that must have been super easy to write what most people would enjoy. But no, it can be actually really difficult. So hats off to them for putting it all together. And I got to say, the harmonization in the vocals that I'm now being exposed to in the second verse, they sound really, really good. And during the next chorus, the lyrics differ from the previous iteration of the chorus, so I'm not mistaken, but are no less self-deprecating. Though I think he might be lying, as in the first line, he claims to not know how to write a big hit song, which is clearly not true, and really has no bearing on whether or not you're intelligent. Like, I don't know if Einstein, Hawking, or Tesla ever crafted a top 40 hit. I'm pretty sure they haven't. They're all geniuses. So I don't really think that's a predicate for your level of intellect. Also, I mean, this band has been around for a while. I've heard their name from all the way over here. I'm sure they've got quite a following. I find it hard to believe that this guy can't write a big hit song. He also claims to shun crossword puzzles, which is really based on mostly trivial knowledge. So he shouldn't be so hard on himself. He signs off in the chorus by again stating his political office, and that he loves the object of his affection in the song. And we then shift to this bridge-like portion. I couldn't help but thinking, I wonder what John thinks about this bridge, because you often are very disparaging of the bridge in any song. But there's this bright bit of key work and some really nice bass noodling in this bridge that I thought was actually pretty redeeming. And another verse is on the other side of the aforementioned bridge, and it too features this do vocalist bit, much like the previous. The lead vocalist begins the verse with a great line. If the depth of feeling is currency, then I'm the man who grew the money tree. Man, that's clever. I like that line. This is a sweet little metaphor, and he caps it off by getting in another dig at the friends when he sings, some of your friends are too brainy to see that they're paupers, and that's how they'll stay. Sick burn, buddy. So we get treated to another chorus and then an outro where he assures his love interest by repeating that she will be warm in the arms of the mayor of Simpleton. And this is followed by the oft-used line throughout the song, please be upstanding for the mayor of Simpleton, as the song fades to completion. So despite it bordering on saccharine levels of sweetness and Gouda levels of cheesy at times, it is still both charming and disarming enough to get a few smiles out of me. And besides, it had all the trappings of a well-written pop song, which I stated before. So it was plenty enjoyable. I could see maybe if I was in one of my more I don't know, darker moods, or a bit more, I could be a bit more sardonic about the sentiment of the song, but it was sweet. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. The world needs a sweet song here and there. So tell me more about this track and about this band. I know that there have to be tracks by these guys that I've heard before that I didn't realize was them, because their name has been peppered throughout, my years of music listening since I was a teenager. So tell me more about this band, please, John.
Yeah, okay, thanks for that. And the reason I picked this was it was a more of their poppy, accessible, and immediate songs to break the ice with them. It's actually like a lot of their songs, there's 2 or 3 levels to it, layers. And I think it's quite a pointed sort of a critique of what you would call book clever versus street clever.
Yeah.
He's clearly the cleverest person in the room, even though he's called himself the Mayor of Simpleton, and emotionally especially. But yeah, they're a really, really interesting band. They are a vastly underappreciated band for various reasons. They, up till recently, perhaps even still, they have a larger following in the States than they do in the UK, even though they are quintessentially very English in their sound. Really interesting, lot to get through. I will just give you broad strokes because I'm going to give you more XTC songs and we'll go into other stories, but there's a few things you should know about them. So,
really quickly, John. I also wanted to mention the artwork before we get too deep into the bit. Really cool, but my God, this had shades of Yellow Submarine era Beatles. So I can't. The artist who did that work, name escapes me. I know it, but I can't think of it. I'm sure you know
I
it.
can't remember his name, but yeah, I got a reference to it.
We're in the same Yellow Submarine then. Is it the same artist or just someone who took inspiration from that? That was
Took inspiration from. No, so XTC were an English band formed in Swindon in 1972. They're known for pop, art rock, new wave, post-punk, art punk, progressive pop, and neo psychedelia. So Andy Partridge, vocals and guitar, formed a band in the early 70s, which kept changing names and lineups. They settled on the name Star Park, and they had various people in the band, including the bassist called Nervous Steve. He then met Colin Moulding, vocals and bass, who, along with Terry Chambers, drums, replaced the existing members to become Star Park Mark II. After a more variety of name changes and personnel changes, they landed on the phrase XTC in 1975. Partridge derived XTC from Jimmy Durant's explanation on discovering the lost chord. That's it, I'm in ecstasy. And the name was chosen mainly for its emphatic appearance in print. They emerged at the same time, but not from the punk scene. And they were kind of trying to put into, a lot of other bands were as well, you know, the Jam and stuff like that. But they played a variety of styles that ranged from angular guitar riffs to elaborately arranged pop. Because they didn't fit into the contemporary trends, they only achieved sporadic commercial success in the UK and the US, but they attracted a considerable cult following. And quote from Andy Partridge, I don't really like the phrase punk. It just seemed kind of demeaning. I didn't like new wave either, because that was already the phrase used for French cinema of a certain period. Our music was blatantly just pop music. We were a new pop group. That's all. Andy Partridge. So as the punk movement emerged, it opened avenues for a lot of bands, and XTC in particular, in terms of sort of record appeal. So even though they didn't necessarily fit into the punk dogma, Partridge remembered hearing the Sex Pistols' Anarchy in the UK and feeling underwhelmed by its similarity to the Monkees or the Ramones. It quotes, that sort of spurred me on, watching this stuff that I thought was rather average. Soon, John Peel saw the band perform upstairs at Ronnie Scott's and asked them to appear on his BBC Radio 1 show. Partridge credited him as, quotes, responsible for getting us a recording contract. As soon as we recorded that session for the BBC, suddenly 3 or 4 record labels wanted to sign us up. It's a common story that Mr. Peel has helped so many bands. So after declining CBS, Harvest and Island, they signed with Virgin Records. So they had a couple of interesting and idiosyncratic albums, both in 1978. Their debut, White Music, and then follow-up, Go To. Very worthy and interesting, but not very commercial. And then we had a personnel change, and Dave Gregory joined as an additional guitarist. And the turning point came in 1979 with the album Drums and Wires. And from that, the main single, Making Plans for Nigel, marked their commercial breakthrough, and it hit the top 30. Following that, highly acclaimed albums, Black Sea in 1980 and English Settlement in 82. Got a wonderful cover, which you'll see in a later episode. Most fans rate English Settlement as the highest or favourite within the XTC canon. So while touring in 1981, supporting the Black Sea album, Andrew Partridge's mental health started to deteriorate. He asked to stop touring, but he was opposed by the band, the management, and the record label. He would occasionally experience moments of complete memory loss. not only of the song and the words, but also to the extent he would forget who he was.
Easy.
His then wife, Marianne, blamed his illness on his long-time dependency on Valium, which he had been prescribed since the age of 12.
Jesus.
She threw away the tablets, so he went cold turkey, and over the next year, he experienced intense withdrawal effects, which he later described as brain melt. So they went back to the UK, and then they released English Settlement. After that, there were more promotional events and touring dates scheduled. During a live broadcast gig in Paris, Partridge stopped playing and ran off the stage during the opening song, Respectable Street. He described feeling nausea and stomach pains while on stage. Quotes, my body and brain said, you're hating this experience and I'm going to make it bad for you. When you go on stage, I'm going to give you panic attacks and stomach cramps. You're not enjoying this and you haven't got the heart to tell anyone you can't carry on, so I'm going to mess you up. That's how he felt. He flew back to Swindon and started a treatment, effectively hypnotherapy treatment. The band's remaining tour dates in England were all cancelled. After recovering from the episode, Partridge rejoined the group for their first tour of the US as their first time as a headlining act. In April '82, XTC was scheduled to headline a sold-out show at the Hollywood Palladium in Los Angeles. Partridge woke up that morning and, quotes, couldn't get out of bed. My legs wouldn't function. Walked to Ben Frank's coffee shop where we all agreed to meet in slow motion like I had both legs in plaster, trying not to throw up. I got in there and they knew what I was going to say. So the tour was stopped. He went back and continued his hypnotherapy treatment, fearing that he was turning into the archetypal rock burnout, just like Syd Barrett. Quotes, it got to the point where if I touched the front door knob, I wanted to throw up. For a period afterwards, because this is all pre-internet stuff, it was rumoured amongst fans and industry insiders that the group stopped performing because Partridge had died. And some American bands put on XTC tribute shows in his remembrance. The council tour saddled the band with a £20,000 bill, and then close inspection of their finances showed huge mishandling from their manager Ian Reid and further debt. Lawsuits were flowing in both directions, and Virgin, the label, was legally required to freeze royalty and advance payments and divert publishing income into a frozen deposit account while the litigation went on. For the next decade, the entirety of the band's earning would be invested in the continued litigation. The group supported themselves mostly through short-term loans from Virgin and royalty payments derived from Airplay. At one point, Moulding and Gregory were working at a car rental service for additional income. Partridge was eventually left with about £300 in the bank. There was a gagging order which prevented the band from disclosing the details of the extent of the mismanagement. But according to Partridge, the band was left with roughly £300,000 bill in unpaid VAT. Music journalist Patrick Shaber elaborates. He says, what is known is that Reid signed a deal with Virgin that wound up working out primarily for Reid, secondary for Virgin, and not at all for XTC. Throughout their first 5 years of existence, XTC never saw a penny of profits from either album sales or touring revenue. Reid, on the other hand, took out large loans from Virgin, borrowing against XTC's royalties to the tune of millions of pounds by some estimates. Even after the band settled out of court with Reid, because of the terms of the contract, Virgin were able to hold XTC liable for the sum. Because of XTC's failure to tour, the likelihood of ever repaying Virgin dwindled further away. Over the course of a 20-year contract with Virgin Records, and after achieving gold and platinum status in album sales on a number of discs, XTC never saw any publishing royalties. Okay, so there's two really important things: Andy Partridge's mental health and the stop touring, and obviously the money side of things as well. There's other stuff, obviously. Fast forward to 1989. We saw the release of XTC's 11th studio album, Oranges and Lemons, which you saw from the thumbnail, and there's this kitty here. I absolutely love this cover. I mean, it is a throwback, obviously, to Yellow Submarine artwork, etc. But I think it's just wonderful. The album from the nursery rhyme. Are you familiar in the States with Oranges and Lemons? No, okay, fair enough. I wondered if you were. Oranges and Lemons and the Bells of St. Clemens, and it goes on like that. And yeah, it's an interesting sort of rhyme about. But it was chosen in reference to the band's poor financial standing at the time, while the music is characterized as a 1980s update of 1960s psychedelia. which obviously would hit stronger a year or so later with Stone Roses and stuff like that. It received critical acclaim. It became the band's highest charting album since English Settlement, rising to number 28 in the UK and number 44 in the US. So personnel at this point, Andy Partridge, vocals, guitar, Colin Moulding, vocals, bass, and Dave Gregory, guitars, backing vocals, keyboards. And then for the album, this is for the album, additional musicians, they had a sessions guy called Pat Massolotto on drums. Commenting on the influence of the Beatles, Partridge said there is some Beatles in our music, but also some Captain Beefheart, some jazz bands, and some others who are not necessarily musicians, like Miro and Walt Disney. If people see only some Beatles, it's because they want to search only for some Fab Four. You probably get from these quotes, he's quite a character, Mr. Partridge. One of the recurring in-jokes during the sessions of the album was the spin the wheel dial, which is used for determining which takes they chose. And the wheel, which they would spin, had labeled sections. Great, best take ever, better than the Beatles, pretty good, okay, not so good, possibly acceptable, pretty bad, weak, horrible, dreadful, and the worst shit I've ever heard. The lead single, Mayor of Simpleton, that's the 12-inch there, a jangle pop song, reached number 46 in the UK singles chart and number 72 in the Billboard Hot 100, making it the only US single to chart.
Wow.
So they're not really a big sales sort of band. They're a highly acclaimed, critics' favourite pop band. So this song actually began as a reggae tune and went through numerous iterations. Partridge settled on its final arrangement after discovering a C major to D major picking pattern that he thought resembled Blue Oyster Cult's Don't Fear the Reaper. I think he's the only one who can hear that. Unlike many XTC songs, he instructed a specific bass part to Colin Moulding. Quotes, Colin had to work very hard to get that bass line. It's very precise. It took me a long time to work out because I wanted to get into the JS Bark mode of each note being the perfect counterpoint to where the chords are and the melody is. The bass is the third part in the puzzle. Some of its lyrics were sometimes criticised for its similarity to Sam Cooke's Wonderful World, but Partridge denied copying the song intentionally. He did state, however, that the ending was a slight tip of the hat to the Beatles' Good Day Sunshine. Rolling Stone called the LP ambitious and ultimately delightful, acknowledging that first-time listeners may be overwhelmed by the densely layered arrangements and centre stage percussion, but on repeated listenings, the curtains part and the hooks are all you hear. Q magazine believed the group was obsessed with the Beatles, specifically Paul McCartney era circa 1967-68. It was concluded that the music was exuberantly catchy and mercifully free of that whiff of self-conscious art school cleverness which has blighted XTC in the past. These songs are thrilling before you catch their sophistication. And Pulse magazine stated, we can't imagine anyone not liking this record unless you've got a real problem with brilliant songwriting, personal yet universal lyrics, great singing and nifty guitar sounds. So the lyrics. They are slightly tongue-in-cheek, but I do like them. Never been near a university, never took a paper or a learned degree. And some of your things think that's stupid of me, but it's nothing that I care about. Well, I don't know how to tell the weight of the sun, and of mathematics, well, I want none. And I may be the mayor of a simpleton, but I know one thing, and that's I love you. When their logic grows cold and all thinking gets done, you'll be all warm in the arms of the mayor of a simpleton. I can't have been there when brains were handed round. Please be it standing for the mayor of Simpleton, or get past the covers of your books profound. Please be it standing for the mayor of Simpleton. Some of your friends think that's really unsound, that you even seen talking to me. Well, I don't know how to write a big hit song. And all crossword puzzles, well, I just shun. And I may be the mayor of Simpleton, but I know one thing, and that's I love you. Bridge. I'm not proud of the fact that I never learned much. Just feel I should say, what you get is all real. I can't put on an act. It takes brains to do that anyway. And I can't unravel problems, riddles, problems, and puns. How the home computer has me on the run. And I may be the mayor of Simpleton, but it's one thing I know, and that's I love you. If depth of feeling is a currency, please be it standing for the mayor of Simpleton, then I'm the man who grew the money tree. No chain of office and no hope of getting one. Some of your friends are too brainy to see that they're paupers and that's how they stay. Well, I don't know how many pounds make up a ton, of all the Nobel Prizes that I've never won, and I may be the mayor of Simpleton, but I know one thing, and that's I love you. When all logic grows cold and all thinking gets done, you'll be warm in the arms of the mayor of Simpleton. You'll be warm in the arms of Simpleton. You'll be warm in the arms of the mayor. Please be outstanding for the mayor of Simpleton, repeated another 5 times. So yeah, just to round things off, and I will go into more detail. I will give you some other stuff which is more interesting and not so immediate as this. But between 79 and 92, XTC had a total of 10 albums and 6 singles, which reached the UK top 40. So they did all right, you know.
Yeah.
In 1993, they went on strike against Virgin, citing an unfair recording contract, and soon extricated themselves from the label. Well, you can see why. Gregory then left the band during the making of Apple Venus Volume 1 in 1999, after which the XTC name was used by just the duo of Partridge and Moulding. In 2006, Partridge announced that his creative partnership with Moulding had disintegrated, leaving XTC, quotes, in the past tense. Just as a side, just a bits which came to light many years later, Partridge actually experiences auditory synesthesia, which he uses in his songwriting process. In later interviews, he stated he believed himself to be on the autistic spectrum, saying in a 2022 interview with The Guardian, "I think I'm on the spectrum, yes, but it's all helped me, and I wouldn't have it any other way." He also has obsessive compulsive disorder since childhood, and at the age of 12, he was professionally diagnosed with ADHD, known at the time simply as hyperactivity, and some idiots prescribed him Valium. Partridge does remain musically active, and he's done loads of stuff. He has done some stuff with Robin Hitchcock, friend of the channel. His last solo release came out in 2022, and he's done loads of collaborative albums, and the last one of those came out in 2024, so he's still active and going. But yeah, so that's I was worried I wasn't going to get it all done, but so that's a bit about XTC and about this song. It's a real I'm really fond of this song because it's just immediate and catchy and poppy, and some of their other stuff is more challenging. But they really are pretty much pop or art pop or clever pop. You know, they are a worthy successor, I think, to the Beatles in many ways, and very, very clever.
How did he get out of, I mean, obviously he's been diagnosed, he's probably got a better handle on what he's dealing with, but like it just seems like a bit of a tinderbox to be like you know, have all of these issues where, you know, on the spectrum, probably don't do well in crowds, probably don't do well with loud noises and all this kind of stuff. And here he is, the frontman of a rock and roll band, and clearly he went through it. How did he? Was it the hypnotherapy? How did he right the ship enough to be able to continue doing what he loves?
I mean, I think he just locks himself in the studio and did it that way because he's never performed again live.
Yeah.
So it just, and I guess the understanding of these sort of things has grown over the last 20 years, which you just thought you're a weirdo, you know, weirdo or whatever back in the 80s, definitely. I mean, autistic I'd never heard that word in the 80s, definitely.
Exactly.
But yeah, so more interesting tales to come and interesting songs as well. But thanks for listening to this. I should wrap things up. Folks out there, tell us what you think. I know it's probably the worst song to start off Andy's journey with XTC, blah, blah, blah. But tell us what you think. Drop a line about this song, any others. I've got a list as long as your arm of songs in the Gibbs film. Probably the next one's from Black Sea, which is my favorite album, Shock Horror. But yeah, love to hear from you. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. We really appreciate everybody who supports the channel. That being said, thanks again so much for watching. And more XTC to come. So we'll see you all on the next episode of The Audiophiles.
See you later, guys.